wanted to do a video on mental illness and your faith. So a lot of people have mental illness that are Christian. A lot of people, because it just attracts those type of people. Most people who have mental illness made mistakes. That's why they have mental illness. There's certain things on their conscience that makes them break and have depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, ASPD, the whole 9 yards, OCD. There's some kind of thing on their conscience that causes this to happen. At least this is what Freud wrote in his essays, and I tend to agree with Freud. I think a lot of mental illness is due to things that our conscience can't bear about ourselves, so our self-image is basically not equal to who we actually are, and that creates frustration, and it causes all sorts of problems to happen. But that's great, because this is what Christ is here to save. This is what Christ is here to solve, is this very problem. So in a sense, Christ is good because he removes that shame and guilt, and he gives us a solid foundation, and his grace is a mercy that allows us to basically build upon that foundation and get whole. And as one of the preachers, I think it was Charles Spurgeon, said, there's always a grace in a Christian's life. There's always a grace. There's always a small grace in a Christian's life. God is not going to completely throw you to the wolves. In fact, funny enough, there was a wolf or a husky. It looked like a husky at the time, but the more I think about it, it might have been a wolf. It was wandering my neighborhood, and it was there. This is real. And I saw it, and I thought it was someone's dog, so I was going to approach it and then, make sure it found a home. But then I think it was someone's dog, because someone called for it in the wind, and then it went back to the person. But it went into the street, and I was worried about it. I was telling it to get out of the street because I didn't want it to get hit. And this was a husky. I'm going to just call it a husky because there's no way a wolf was wandering our neighborhood. And it was kind of looking at me sort of strange, and then a car was coming, it looked at it, and then it heard someone call for it, and it went to that person. And you see, if this dog could have been aggressive, this dog could have been very mean, this dog could have ripped me apart, but there was a mercy on me that it didn't. There's always a mercy in a Christian's life. And the fact of the matter is that this is the fact, that God will shelter you and God will protect you. And if you trust on him, you start to let go of the mental illness. You start to let go of the frustration. I understand that, too much stress causes the illness. And again, that stress is caused by our not meeting up to our own standards. Like, we see ourselves failing, or we see ourselves, we committed some sort of sin, or even if it's not even a sin, it could just be we didn't accomplish what we set out to accomplish. It creates frustration, and therefore it breaks. Also, when we start seeing things that should be and they aren't, for whatever reason, this is why gaslighting tactics work, is that you confuse the mind and cause it to perceive what isn't actually there, and you create guilt in someone, and that's what causes the psychotic break when someone starts gaslighting you, which a narcissist is very good at doing, by the way. And this is important because, you got to be stronger than the illness. You got to be stronger than it. You got to beat it with Christ, and you got to beat it with rationality. I know this is easy for me to say. I have a pretty good life. I live with my dad. I am well fed. I have a bed. I have time to write books. I have time to study. I have time to do a lot of things, and I have a nice life. And I know people who don't have that nice life, and they're just struggling. And I'm just saying, you got to overcome it. I know it's hard, but you gotta condition yourself to overcome the illness. You gotta beat it. You gotta wrestle with it. That's what my book is about, specifically the Odes of Britos, is wrestling with my mental illness. Show it as a giant soul, a kind of lust for worldly wealth and power, and I have to wrestle with that, because that's where the mental illness is really coming from, that and a root of bitterness. And if I uproot the tares and I uproot the bitterness, the mental illness goes away. If I just accept the fate of where I'm at, and as Paul says, learn to live with contentment, the delusions go away. The depression's still here, but that's just to be said. We're gonna mourn, as Jesus says, you'll sorrow, but you rejoice always. And I'm always rejoicing because God is on my side. Like I said with the husky or wolf dog, whatever it was, there in the street, it didn't bite me. It didn't come after me. In fact, Jesus taught me how to show compassion on the animal, and I was more worried about it than I was about myself. You know what I mean? That's kind of the most important thing, is that if we get out of our own self-worry, we get out of our own self-contained disappointment, we can start to see the other people in our lives and begin to, in a sense, work to better ourselves and be better for other people. Which is what's important in our lives, is that we aren't just sitting there worrying about ourselves and trying to fix our own problems. And I don't say we can fix other people's problems, but we can care about them. You know, we can care about other people. We can give, if we have pennies or quarters. If you're poor, you can put it into the tin, or you can volunteer, or you can do whatever chores your parents tell you to do without fighting them, whether wash the dishes, mow the lawn, take the car to the station and fill it up. You know, you have to have humility. You know, that's what I'm learning, is that, like, in my estimation, my life looks pretty bleak, is that I have no control over my own life. It's completely controlled by outside forces, and I have to know humility to beat it. I have to understand that, you know, like, I'm being led around like Peter was at the end of his life, and you just have to understand, you have to have the humility, bear it. You know, and some people think, like, oh, it's bad that I'm having this problem, but, like, there's still some sort of self-respect that you can survive, whereas me, I don't know, you know, and that really is what bothers me. But then again, Christ can teach you all things. Christ can give you all things. Christ can shelter you from all things. He knows your breaking point. He's not going to let you break.